How's everyone doing? I'm Dusty here at Bengals Army. I got Maan from the Bengals Pulse. How we doing, Maan?
Dusty, I'm doing good. It's one day closer to that big day. It's like a football game to me, man. I'm getting really excited and pumped. I can't wait.
Yes, sir. Isaiah, he's already tuning in. He says "Who Day." Thanks, Isaiah. Isaiah is always
Buddy.
in here listening to us. Yeah, man. It seems like this off season's gone quick. I don't know about you. Maybe it's just being a guy with a daughter that's young and active and rolling around. I know you got a couple kids and stuff, but time just seems like it's flying by. And the draft is here, man. It's here, and I can remember previous years. It seemed like it just took forever, and all it could be due to the fact the Bengals weren't always making these late playoff pushes, and this year we didn't make it to the playoffs. So my assumption was it was going to take a little while for the draft to come along, but it's gone quick for me. Has it gone? Has it seemed like it's gone fast for you? You've been sitting there pretty impatient.
Well, it's funny you just mentioned it. We've been spoiled the last two off seasons. We make these deep playoff runs, and then after the Super Bowl, after the AFC Championship game, 3 weeks later we had free agency. So it was like really no off season. So yeah, we did have a bigger gap this year, but I guess being on Twitter, interacting like on your show, doing 500 mock drafts a week, I feel like it's the excitement is there. Yeah, the off season is long, but we're just engaged and we're talking about the team that we love. It's exciting, and it sort of helps pass the time and keeps you energized and excited for the Bengals in the 2024.
Yeah, the mock draft simulators, man. There's I remember I started doing those on Bengals Facebook. I didn't get into Twitter until about last year, and
Right.
yeah, Bengals Facebook was really harsh on me. It made me take a step back. I was like, maybe my evaluations and my thoughts were wrong, but I think it was just I wasn't talking to the right people, and there was I don't know, just some grumpy people out there, some Bengals fans that are a little harsh. I put a tweet out there today. I'll read you this tweet and you give me a grade, Mon. Let me pull up who I posted because I forget my exact order, but it was I felt like this was a pretty solid draft and it was kind of something that I would look for. So I put pick number 18, Johnny Newton, 49, your boy Zach Frazier, pick 80, Blake Fisher at tackle, and 97, Javon Baker, wide receiver. Would you be happy if those were our first four picks? It's 3 rounds. I just did a little 3 round. Would you be happy with that?
I would tear my shirt off and run up and down the street. That would be amazing. I mean, who gave you a hard time there? I mean, how you're kidding me? Was
Well,
somebody upset?
oh yeah, I had a guy that was a little upset. He gave me it's 24/7 Bengals ring Bengals find. He gave me an F. he rated me
Oh,
he rated me an F grade on here. So I hope he's listening, man. I hope that guy's listening. And everyone's listening. You can go back and you can read the tweets and stuff. Now he had a little bit of good arguments with uh maybe defensive tackle and like different values and stuff. But who's going to be there at pick 80? You can want anybody all day. And my argument was what a Geno Atkins would do to this organization right now. And I really think we could win a Super Bowl. I think last year if we had a Geno Atkins, we would have definitely won the Houston game. There's a handful of games if we had interior pass rush would have won. The reason we lost the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship was because of a good interior pass rusher that destroyed us. If you had zero point 0.5 seconds, a half a second, then Jamar Chase is catching the ball down the right sideline. You would have been there, and it would have been it would have been a great time. So I think the interior pass rush is something I've I haven't honed in on my pick, and that's something we'll get to. Is kind of who we really want. But tonight I'm gonna talk about who I want, and I think by what I've just said, you're probably pretty convinced on maybe two picks that I'd really like.
I have a big draft crush. I've let it out. I told people, and it's not popular on Twitter, but we had Jeff Hobson on our show last night, and he brought up a good analogy. I love this. Everybody wants the home run pick. I get it. Everybody wants to hit a home run in the draft. Who doesn't? But let's face it. Name one person, Mims. Mims from Georgia. Limited tape. He's been hurt a lot. He could be an 8-year All Pro. He really could. He's that good. But guess what else? He could be out of the league in 3 years. He's a boomer bust guy. And what Hobson said last night, hey man, sometimes it's okay to hit a double. You don't have to hit a home run. And actually that's a good point. Get a good, safe pick. Somebody that's going to be a starter and a good NFL player for 10 years. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I know it's a conservative approach, but Mims could be a phenomenal player, but he started 8 games. He had major ankle injury, a surgery, the tightrope, whatever they want to call it. He's been hurt a lot. Man, I've seen this movie before. It's Cedric Ogbuehi, and Mims is much better than him. I am not trying to say he's Cedric Ogbuehi, but still, I'm just a little nervous about a player like that. There's a lot of risk there.
No, I 100% agree with you. Darth says, "Who day?" Thanks for joining us, Darth. Darth's always in here too. We appreciate it, man. The Mims, I'm not in on him. It's definitely if you have if you're a pick 18, I don't feel like this is a boomer bust selection. I feel like you have a really good chance at picking out your guy. Like there's a lot of value at pick 18. There's going to be guys that fall. And I'm not on board with having the 6th best offensive tackle when you could have the number 1 cornerback, possibly. You could have the number 1 defensive tackle by chance. You could have a number 1 guy at their position and take them and those could be positions of needs for the Bengals. And having a guy like Mims is just it's too honestly, I would rather the kid from Duke that played all up and down the line. I was talking to him with Parker Blake. I know you like him too, Barton.
Yeah,
Graham Barton.
That's who I have in my final mock. I have him in the first round. Graham Barton. I love the guy. I have the Bengals trading back a few and picking him because I think he's a safe pick. I know that drives people crazy. We need this. I want a solid starter on that offensive line that's going to be there 8-10 years. That's a good player, and I think he's going to be that guy.
I agree. Yeah, I like Graham Barton. I think he could be a dude that even if there's a possible trade back scenario, if it's between him and Mims, because I was talking to Parker Blake, he was on the show a few days ago, and he liked a guy that could do multiple different spots. I honestly don't remember what he said about Mims because we were on the show for about 2 hours and we covered a lot of people, and I kind of forget what he said about Mims, but he did like Barton, so that would be a good pick for me. Definitely a dude that can play multiple positions up and down the line. And right now we don't need a starter on the offensive line, but what are the odds the Bengals do what they did last year and don't have any injuries there and all 5 guys start? Well, we've seen it the year prior, and what happened? Those injuries started stacking up at the worst possible time. They happened, we lost 3/5 of our offensive line through the playoffs, going into the playoffs and through the playoffs. And that came to bite us in the butt, even though we played the Bills and played a great game against them. But when we played Kansas City, man, it did not pan out great.
Well, you mentioned it. You mentioned it a few minutes ago at the start of the show. You talked about the Super Bowl and just having a couple extra seconds, and potentially we could have a game-winning walk-off touchdown to Jamar Chase. You mentioned the playoff game against the Chiefs and the AFC Championship game the next year. Depth, quality depth is needed. Could you imagine if the Bengals spent a little bit more money, maybe had a couple better players to come in off the bench and fill in for Kappa and fill in for who else was hurt then? Collins. We probably would have been the back-to-back Super Bowls. And
Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams was playing.
He was hurt. Absolutely.
He was out. 3/5 of the offensive line, man. That's a lot, dude.
Dusty, here's what people don't like to hear. And I totally get it. I totally get it. My dog is going to start barking. I'm sorry. No,
My dog's
it's
down here, and it's like going,
yeah. She's something like she's a pup. She's a year old, and she's whatever. No, but what people need to understand is this: we're going to have three. We are going to have three openings in our offensive line over the next 2 years, and we have got to
yeah,
start preparing for it. I know we want a first rounder to come in and give us 500 snaps this year. I would love that. I get it, but we are going to get caught in a meat grind here because Karras is going to be up. Brown's on a 1 year contract. Kappa has 2 years left. People don't like me looking ahead, but man, I don't want bums. And I don't want the Bengals to sign a guy for $1 million come in and be our center. There's only going to be so much money to go around. We can't keep on adding these pieces in free agency. It's too expensive. We have got to get good players that we can develop. It might not have to be at 18, but at 49, at 80, at 97, we have to invest in offensive linemen that are going to be the future. I want better players than what we have now. We have good guys, but I think we can be better at those spots, and it has to start this draft.
I 100% agree. I do, and I I want a good offensive lineman in the top 3 rounds. We got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, so right now we don't exactly need a starter, but I feel like you can get quality depth. If you get a Zach Frazier in the second round, that right there is a guy that can force a starting position right off the rip. And if he doesn't start, it it doesn't matter because more than likely he can fill in. If you get a Graham Barton and say you trade back 5 spots, I don't even know who's 5 spots back, but let's just say we move roughly 5 spots back, and you can still get a Graham Barton. That that to me would be great value. A guy that can play every position, you can fill multiple roles, and you're going to get a quality starter. What was he? A 3-year captain? I believe
Yes.
I heard he was a 3-year captain. That screams Zach Taylor right there to me. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a guy that would not surprise me. Do I think he'll be the pick at 18? I don't know. Would I love the pick at 18? It just depends on how the board falls. If you have if you have Johnny Newton there and you take Graham Barton, I might be slightly upset.
Yeah, I
I'd
got you.
probably
I got
rather
you there.
yeah, I'd probably rather Johnny Newton. But
Yeah.
uh, I I don't know. What would you do? Say you got Mims on the board and Newton's on the board, and then it's just a bunch of the guys that we expect to kind of fall later. Would you take Bart? Say there's Terrion Arnold, the cornerback. Say he's there. So you got a guy that can be CB1. You've got DT1, and you also have a guy that can fill multiple positions on the defensive line. It, and
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know if you listened to Dave Lapham. I think it was on Bengal Gems, or it might have been on Dan Hortz. He was on both, and he brought up a really good point. He was talking about 5 or 6 offensive linemen could go before 18. So at 18, when the Bengals are about to pick, you have the fifth or sixth highest rated offensive lineman in the draft available, or you have the number one defensive tackle available in Murphy or Newton. Who are you going to pick? I'm going to take the number one rated defensive lineman.
yeah,
I'm going to take Murphy or Newton. That's what I'm going to do. To me, that's value. Now, you brought up a great point. Barton to me is a little rich at 18. That's why I went back. But I have seen some mocks where he's 15. These are reputable sites, not some, they have him 15 to 28. So, depending on which one you follow, Barton at 18 might not be a reach, but if Arnold is there, that's a real ultimate premium position. It would drive Bengal Nation crazy, but getting another
okay,
cornerback like him, that would be, man,
yeah,
I won't lose a lot of sleep over it. I really won't. Listen, I'm not a Bowers guy. I'm not a Bowers guy, but I think Bowers is a hell of a player. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's not my number one choice. Jake on the Bengals Pulse last night made this crazy trade for Bowers, but I tell you what, that's fine. He loves Bowers, but the rest of Jake's draft was phenomenal, and I told him that. He got Cooper Beebe in the second round. He got Zach Zenter a little later. Those are
hmm
two future. If that happened, those guys start for the Bengals for 6, 7, 8 years, and
hmm
that was great. He ended up getting the nose tackle from Texas A&M, McKinley. Is it Jackson? Is that his name?
yeah,
He
McKinley
got him.
Jackson.
he got him a little early, but he got Evan Anderson from FAU. He really rebuilt the trenches. I didn't care for the Bowers pick, but his draft was amazing. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, yeah, if we did go Arnold, if we did go Bowers, if we did go Thomas at 18, we still have 9 picks to make some headway in in the trenches. And do I want Zach Barton, like maybe a trade back? I would love to have it because I think Zach Barton, to me, he's one of the safest picks. And like Jeff Hobson said, I want a double. It doesn't have to be a home run.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was trying to find this tweet. Now, I listened. It was Mike Potts. So here's the tweet by Ben Baby. Mike Potts says, "We'd be stupid to not go and do what it takes to get a certain player that we think would make that kind of impact." And he's talking about trading up. So I don't know. Did you listen to the press conference earlier?
I did not. That's very interesting. And I did present the question to Jeff Hobson last night. This is how I worded it. The Bengals do not trade up. The last time they did it was Kajana Carter back in the 90s, 1994, 95. And I said, but this year there could be 5 or 6 tackles, that could get drafted before 18. Could this be the year where the Bengals maybe move up 3 or 4 spots to make sure they get that tackle that they want? He didn't think it would happen. He just doesn't think the Bengals trade up. He goes, they might trade back. But if there's a year they're going to do it, Dusty, it's going to be this year because there's going to be so many quality tackles. And they do have that hole there at right tackle. Even though Brown's there, they need a long-term answer there. And I think if they do it, it could be this year. They have a lot of draft capital.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 10 picks is a lot, man. And there's a lot of players on this roster, a lot of guys in the trenches that I don't think are going to get a roster spot if you can fill the right with the right guys. So, do you need 10 picks exactly? I don't really believe so. If you hit with the right players, because you got guys from that 21 draft class that didn't pan out. So, I think if we trade up, I just don't think we're going to trade up as far as some people would like to. And, there's a lot of T talk, moving T around and doing different things. We talked about it on the show the other day, and me and Chris kind of got a little heated. Tyler Bowles is in here. He was on the show with us. And I'm a fan of keeping T. And I just don't think it's in the realm that Justin Jefferson gets brought in. Now, if he does, I think it would be great. I just don't know if I'd want to give up all the capital that it would take to get Justin Jefferson. And the other guys, Chris and Tony, they were kind of on board with bringing Jetta in. So I don't know. Go back and watch that show because I don't want to speak for those guys and take them out of quotes and make them feel a type of way or anything about it. But yeah, it was it was a little heated. It was fun though. It's fun. I know you and Jake, you guys will get into it on some things. It makes it fun, especially when you debate with friends. Hey, yeah, we got AC. He's about to tune in.
All right.
How are you doing, AC?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. How are you?
How's the train ride doing?
It's weird, man. I up to about a year ago, I hadn't been on a train until I was since I was 5 years old. And there's this really cool route that goes up to the baseball stadium from where I live, the nearby baseball stadium. And it's an easy way to get some work done and cruise up. And normally I wouldn't go to a baseball game Tuesday night, but it's like a little bit of a work thing. So I'm doing it. But I didn't mean to interrupt what you guys were in the middle of, but wanted to hop on at least for a little bit and talk some ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're out west, right? Are you out west?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California.
Very cool. Very cool.
I like that bomber jacket on, man.
What's that?
That bomber jacket.
Yeah, it's the old school. It's the old starter jacket there. Yeah, I don't know. Trying to pretend I'm cool.
I should have kept mine from back when I was a kid. I could have gave it to my daughter, and she'd been in the cool kids club, you know.
Well, I
So
apologize if it's noisy in here. Hopefully, it's not. I wore some headphones to maybe cancel that out, but
Sounds good. Sounds good.
we're rolling.
yeah, you sound good, man. You sound good.
Awesome.
We're just kind of talking first round about kind of who we like and who we'd want because trenches is kind of a heavy favorite for us right now.
Yeah.
We're kind of talking Graham Barton, the tackle, well, the kind of the all-purpose lineman from Duke. Do you have a guy that's you really would like if he's there at 18? That's kind of your guy.
Well, I mean, my favorite guy of this class, and favorite partially because I think it also fills a major long-term need for the Bengals. But again, being out west, I love Fuaga. Fuaga's my guy, and so that if he's there, that's the guy that I would like to have the Bengals pounce on. If they're sorry, I had the ticket gentleman come over here. I would love to have the Bengals pounce on him. It's unlikely he's there. I just, he may not be the overall best or most polished. I mean, everybody loves the athleticism of Mims and all kinds of different players. Fuaga, for me, just his tenacity in the AFC North, for me, short arms be damned. I'm kind of like that. That's the guy. Right tackle. I don't know. He's mean. If you watch the film, he finishes blocks probably the best among all of the group here. The short arms are concerned. I mean, you guys know the Bengals have drafted tackles before with short arms, and it's come with mixed results. So that's something to be aware of. But that guy, I really like him. Really, really like him. The two top, interior three techs on the defensive side of the ball, Murphy and Newton. I mean, to me, I don't know that you can really go wrong there. There's a little bit of an, hey, Murphy excel because he was next to Sweat. How does Newton, maybe a little smaller program, how does he translate going forward? But for me, those guys are can't miss. But I mean, those are some of my, if we're going trenches, those are some of my dream guys. I just don't think Fuag is there though. And I hate to be that guy. I'm always the guy that says, never say never in the draft. There's always guys that fall, right? And we always say they're never going to be there, but I don't see him being there, unfortunately. I do like, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I do like another Pac-12 guy, but Fautanu in the fact that you could put him in a number of different spots. Again, probably not the most overall talented tackle in a really deep class, but could you start him at left guard if you wanted to, and then groom him to right tackle? I mean, I was on a call with Daniel Jeremiah, and he's like, this guy could play center if you want him to. And so that could be, the Bengals, they like the kill two birds with one stone thing. If there's a guy that is versatile and can play a couple different spots for you right away, I think, he checks the boxes.
We was talking about Barton.
Yeah, I think. Well, go ahead, Dusty. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mon. You might be saying what I was going.
No, I just want to tell. I think Fuatanu and Fuaga are probably the closest bust-proof guys. I think they're the safest, two safe picks, and that's what the Bengals need. Like I told you, Dusty, last night, Jeff Hobson said it. We don't have to hit home runs. Let's hit doubles, okay? And I think Fuaga and Fuatanu, I really think those guys are going to be quality starters for years to come. And I would love to see it happen. I'm just, I agree. I don't think Fuaga is going to be there. Fingers crossed. Like I said earlier, could this be the year the Bengals actually try to move up to secure one of those elite tackles? Maybe give up a third rounder. I don't know. I know they hate doing that. They don't do it. But if Fuaga is there at 15, why not?
This is the stat. That's a great point. I don't mean to cut you off, Mon, but sure. That's a great point because this is the staff that has shown a little more aggression in the draft in terms of ability to move up a little bit as opposed to past regimes. No names being mentioned, of course. But I also wonder, there's still some big holes to fill in some spots on this roster, but if you keep all of your picks, are all of these picks making your roster? Are they feeling? I kind of am like, if there's a guy like you said, Mon, like if there's a guy 2 spots up and you can give up a day 3 pick or something like that in one of those first 2-3 round or 2 or 3 rounds, move up a couple of spots, sacrifice a pick, and get the premier player, get the guy that fits what you do, fits what you want, and be aggressive. Again, we talked about this championship window being closed and or closing sometimes, and sometimes it takes getting out of your comfort zone and moving up to get the premier players.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance with the second round pick? So we did it before with cornerback. Do you think we could move up and get a guy like Kwame Lassiter? I know he's a Georgia guy, so SEC maybe a little different than what AC is used to. But Kwame Lassiter is kind of a guy that's been on my radar that seems like he's fallen just due to his speed. His speed's a little smaller, but if you watch him, his ball skills are really nice. And he plays a little bigger than what he is. I think he's 6 foot 180. But the way he plays, have you guys watched too much of Kwame Lassiter by chance?
Is his brother still on the Bengals on the practice squad? They have to be related.
I don't believe so. I haven't heard of anything of them. AC might be the guy to know.
Yeah, I thought there was a Lassiter that was on the Bengals.
It's a good
wide receiver.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now, I mean, are you Dusty? Are you talking about moving up from the second round to get him?
Yeah, because I think that might be more of what the Bengals would do. I feel like the second round with Cam Taylor-Britt, there's a guy TJ Tampa. There's 2 cornerbacks I really like, and I feel like one of those 2 could maybe be in range for the Bengals. And I feel like the second round might be that spot for them to move up. And these are just kind of my hot takes before the draft. So whatever your guys' hot takes are, but I feel like those 2 in the second round could be something that I could see the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your guys' point, I think the Bengals may be aggressive for them, but not maybe aggressive by other teams' barometers, right? Like I feel like, hey, we can move up in the third round, we can move up in the second round because the collateral we give up is not going to be as hefty as moving up in the first round. I still contend by the time night 2 is over, if let's just say they keep 4 picks, the 4 picks that they have for the sake of argument, I mean, I think you're looking at probably 2 trench players, 1 offensive tackle, 1 defensive tackle, probably a pass catcher of some kind, and then a corner. I mean, I think those are the positions in some order. I mean, you make an argument for the value of where some of those people are, but yeah, I mean, I think those are the 4 positions they potentially address. Maybe running back if they see fit, but I don't see that happening till probably round 4, round 5. But I think by the time night 2 is over, if you have those 4 picks, those are probably the 4 position groups. And I say pass catcher, that could be a tight end, it could be one of the better ones, or a wide receiver. But I think that's kind of, I would think, where their head's at.
Yeah, having 4 picks in the top 100 is huge. That's big time. Now we're talking about trading up. The Bengals have traded back in the past. If they at 18, if there's a cluster of 5 or 6 players that are they like, I could see them jumping back. A handful of picks. Knowing that they're going to get one of those guys. Maybe they get another pick in the top 100. That would be great to get 5. I don't know. Duke Tobin has traded in the past. He hasn't really moved up in the first round, but we'll see. Like you said, Anthony, this is the new Bengals. The trends are out the window. It's going to be an exciting night. Like I said earlier, this offseason, this is the biggest offseason in Bengals history. I think. I think it's that big. They have to hit gold this draft. They really have to, because there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of players that are going to be moving on the next couple of years, and we need to replace them with quality players.
AC, there's a guy called his name's Taj Washington from USC. Can you give me some takes on Taj Washington? Because I know Brendan Rice, he's getting a lot of love and stuff, and I think with his size, his profile, obviously his family heritage, that kind of has a trickle effect with him. But Taj Washington, he's a guy that I really like, kind of a speedster that you might be able to get a little later. Do you have any insight on that kid?
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be ceiling of where he goes, maybe someone falls in love with him late round 3. I don't think he goes that early, though. I think it's probably round 4, round 5. He ran, I think, better than people thought he would in terms of the 40-yard dash and whatnot. A guy, you could put him inside or out. I see, and it's not. I don't want to, place. I hate comparables sometimes about players, but yeah, it's the collegiate jersey, but it's also when I watched this guy a handful of years ago. Again, played inside, some slot, did some work outside. Didn't wow you with the size and all the kind of stuff, but now you look at him and go, man, this is one of the better wide receivers in the league, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I saw a lot of stuff where you go, man, I think Taj is faster. I think Amon-Ra's got a little more bulk to him, so he's a tiny bit more versatile in that respect. But the USC wide receivers this last year, a lot of these guys were going inside and outside. I mean, Rice did the same a little bit as well. He played some inside stuff and then went outside. Rice was a guy that really climbed up boards, though, in the pre-draft process early. Like, you're talking January, February. You're like, this is maybe a early day 3 guy. And now Rice is talked about, being gone by the time night 2 is done. So, I think Taj is probably a guy that, could be a nice round out of a wide receiver core for a team. I think he could be a guy that's probably, maybe wide receiver 4 or so going forward, and a contributor in an offense like the Bengals have, where you go, hey, we're going to spread the ball around a lot. This guy can be used in a variety of ways. So I like him. I think he tested a tiny bit better, especially in the speed department than some people thought. But, again, a guy that you can put inside occasionally, keep outside occasionally, player in an offense, and probably get some good value out of him based on where he's probably going to be drafted.
Okay. There is a wide receiver that seems to be getting mocked quite a bit, and I'll get Maan and AC's opinion on this. It's Troy Franklin. So Troy Franklin in the second round. If that was the selection, regardless, first round we get tackle or defensive tackle. How would you guys feel about a slender, kind of smaller guy like a Troy Franklin? He's produced. I think he had 1,300 yards last year. But would you guys feel comfortable with that type of wide receiver in the second?
Wait, he's about 6'3", 200 pounds.
I don't think he's 200. Is he 200? Because I thought he was smaller than that.
He might be. I'm trying to look him up right here. Hey, man, he played in that explosive offense out west. I don't know. Who else did they have? Irvin. They had a bunch of stars out there. I don't really know much about him. I like Baker. You mentioned from UCF. That's somebody that I think is. I think the Bengals have met him. I like Jalen Polk from Washington. I'm really keeping up with those guys big time. I mocked him yesterday, Jalen Polk, in my final mock in the second round. I'm not a big Franklin guy. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm not.
AC, back with us, buddy?
Yeah. I love him. I love the Washington trio. I love Franklin. Franklin gives you that a little bit of that dynamic nature at the position, a little bit of speed, a little bit of stuff where that I think this offense needs. You get that explosive player, maybe not in every down wide receiver, maybe not someone that you can count on all the time, but someone that you mix in there, and when you have Chase's speed on the field, if you have Franklin's speed on the field, and then let's hope Higgins is out there with his size and versatility. I mean, it's a tough defend, right, for an opposing defense to do that. And the good news, and what I was kind of trying to say earlier, the good news is that the Bengals' kind of bigger positional needs, whether it's this year or long term, offensive tackle, wide receiver, you could even argue to some degree tight end. There are some good players to be had, and some guys that'll probably be available later than expected for this team, probably rounds 2 to 4, where you go, wow, there's some good players available at these positions, because the tackle class is so deep, right? The wide receiver class is so deep. Are some of these wide receivers 3-down players? Maybe not, but in an offense with Joe Burrow and what they're trying to do on that side of the ball, I mean, I think you can get a pretty heavy contributor that's producing pretty early, and I think Franklin can fit that mold.
Yeah. You mentioned Daniel Jeremiah earlier. During the combine, he was talking about his top 100. I think he had 18 wide receivers in his top 100. That's unbelievable. He was talking about college football, how it's changing, and every year you're going to see wide receivers just dominate the top 50, top 100 of draft boards. And you're going to be able to find one. And, people are talking about trading T and all this stuff. Teams can get wide receivers now. We're not going to get premium, return on T. I'm not saying he's getting traded, but, everybody's thinking we're going to get 2 first-round picks and all this. I think they're dreaming. But I think if you want a wide receiver, you can definitely get one in the 2nd and 3rd round.
I agree. I don't know if we lost Anthony. we might have lost him. I'll put him on the side.
No, you didn't. You didn't. I'm good. I'm just packing up. They're kicking me out of the train here, so I gotta make my move. But you said all those wide receivers in the top 100. I mean, you could argue that the 3 Washington guys are in there, right? With 3 from one team, and so it's like, man, teams are loading up, and they're some of the college offenses are getting more sophisticated and doing some of the things that pro offenses are doing. So I think, again, for the Bengals, they're in a good spot. It kind of feels a little bit more like, man, there's like 2 or 3 positions where you go, they really need to kind of shore that up. But the good news is this specific class feels like a good opportunity to do that, both short term and long term, with the depth at those positions.
Yeah, I really like Polk from Washington. He reminds me of a slightly bigger and faster Tyler Boyd. I think he's going to be a long-term star in the NFL.
I agree. Anthony, we'll let you go, buddy. We know you're traveling and everything. I definitely appreciate you jumping in.
Well, hopefully it wasn't a total mess on here.
No, you're good, man. Enjoy the game. What game are you going to see? Going to see?
It's like Angels and Orioles. I don't know. It's like whatever. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I got kind of like the orange and black Orioles thing going, I guess, but I'm also kind of an Angels guy, so whatever. But I appreciate you guys inviting me. Sorry, it was this week's just insane, but I wanted to make it happen. Hopefully, I brought some form of
man. Be safe.
Value. I don't know.
Are you in Huntington Beach?
Further south. I'm in San Juan Capistrano. Okay, that's where I live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But good talking with both you guys. Thank you also for both of you always supporting what we do, and I see you guys tune in and compliment and all of that, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Really, really appreciate it, and you guys keep killing it. You're doing awesome work.
Take care.
Thanks,
buddy.
man.
See you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Look forward to talking to you again, AC. Safe travels, buddy.
Yep.
He's good, dude.
All right. That
he really is. He's
Anthony's great. I know he didn't get to really plug his stuff, but since he Jungle Origin Black Insider, Anthony does a lot of great work. So if you guys haven't, I can guarantee if you're listening to my show, you've listened to Anthony's show. But for whatever reason you haven't, make sure you tune into him. He's a great dude. He was one of the first guys we had on the show, actually, 1 year ago. He was one of the first people that I listened to through podcasts and stuff. So we always joke around. I know a lot of people call him the Godfather, but AC is definitely a great guy. So thank you. Hopefully, maybe he's still listening, maybe he's not, but thank you, AC.
He's been doing it for a very long time, really long time, and he's dialed in on West Coast football. Obviously living in Florida, SEC country, I don't watch a lot of football out west. Out west. I got to be honest. I've never been an Oregon guy. It's just the Phil Knight Nike thing and everything with Oregon. It's always like that's one college team I just don't follow and I don't care about. Okay, which is shallow on my part. I don't know much about their players. I know the Franklin, I know Irvin and all those guys. Yeah, you're right. I was looking. Franklin's only like 170 pounds at 6'2". That's pretty frail, but he is fast, man. I was reading the profile while he was talking. He played a lot of quality snaps of college football. So if the Bengals drafted him, I wouldn't lose any sleep over that one either.
Yeah, the past couple of years, he's put up some nice overall yardage. I think this year, he put up 1,300. I could be wrong on that. Are you looking at it, Maan? Because I think last year he put 13. 2022 was around 9. I'm not looking at it right now, but I think it was around. He was pretty consistent in a 3-year period, around 700-800 to like 9 to like, and then he put another jump into around 12-13. So he is a pretty solid guy, but he's very light, and you could compare him to the that kid that he just got the big payday up in Philadelphia. So he was a light
Yeah,
player. I think he was around
he had
1.
81 receptions for 1,300 yards. Wow, I mean, he has impressive stats. I know that offense is bonkers out there, but
Yeah.
6'2", 6'3", he's almost 6'3", 170. I'm looking at this list. I am reading up on him. The list of wide receivers in this draft is unbelievable. Like Daniel Jeremiah said on TV, 18 of his top 100 were wide receivers. That shows you that's how college football has changed so much. And if the Bengals want to get a wide receiver, they don't have to get one in the first round. They're going to get a stud in the second or third round, maybe the fourth round. Hey, look at Tank Dell last year, who the Trey Palmer for the Buccaneers was a 6th-round pick. A lot of these guys came in and they played really good football.
Well, he compared Amon-Ra St. Brown I think St. Brown was a 4th round pick. That's
Right.
there's value, and all these kids, they're doing their 7-on-7s now, and it's getting to be more of offensive oriented with wide receiver, quarterback, even tight end, catching the ball, making plays. So I really think there's going to be a lot more value coming out with these guys. I'm still really high on Javon Baker. Javon Baker's, I'm sure a lot of him just down in Florida, but he's a guy that I would love for the Bengals to get. I feel like pick 80. Sure, give me him. It kind of depends on what we do in the trenches. I'm definitely round 1, round 2, pretty set on trenches, unless you have a cornerback that falls. In I kind of talked about Kwame Lassiter is a guy that I really like.
Yeah, Lassiter has to be related to the Lassiter that was with the Bengals for a couple of years on the practice squad. But what Anthony said was dead on. I agree with him 100%. The first 4 picks, if they keep them all, it's going to be an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a cornerback, and a wide receiver. Those are going to be 4 picks in the top 100. All 4 of those guys are going to be good players. I really think they're going to be good players. If that happens, that will. I mean, forget the double. That's a home run if that happens, and hopefully it does.
Yeah, that's. I'm trying to think of who my guys are. So I kind of gave you my list of my guys for them that first 3-round scenario with getting a Johnny Newton, Zach Frazier. Also in the second round, I would not be opposed to getting a guy like TJ Tampa. I feel like if you put a TJ Tampa with Cam Taylor-Britt, they're kind of comparable. In those two, I feel like could really revamp this secondary. I don't want to say he's a clone of CTB, but man, TJ Tampa is pretty close of a guy that you could compare to a Cam Taylor-Britt. And I would not have a problem with that in the second round. Kwame Lassiter, I really don't know if he'll be there. I think he's I know there's some people that have him kind of as like their number 3, number 4 cornerback. But if he's in that range, I can definitely see the Bengals moving up and getting a guy like that. And also Zach Frazier in the second round. If you want to really bolster those trenches and you get that defensive tackle in a Johnny Newton or a Byron Murphy, which I really don't know if the Bengals would do that, but I would like to see that. I think a lot of us are starting to picture that as a toy. We think of wide receivers and tight ends as toys. I think a pass rusher is kind of a toy. Do you feel that way, Mon?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we talked about 18, but Latu, some of these defensive linemen, Verse could be there at 18. That's going to be tempting for the Bengals also. I know it would drive Bengal Twitter crazy, but if Verse gets picked at 18, that wouldn't shock me. I'm not saying I want it. If Latu drops, who some experts, some pundits say he's one of the best defensive players in this whole draft. I mean, that would be a massive value pick. But TJ Tampa, you're talking cornerback. People don't realize. I think Goodberry tweeted it today again. Cornerback 4 for the Bengals has played over 500 snaps every year.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you be mad if they picked the Tampa in the second round or Terry and Arnold? You couldn't be mad because it would actually be smart football. But we're going to see. I mean, I'm still mesmerized about the wide receiver situation. I'm looking at NFL Draft Buzz right now. Their 21st ranked wide receiver in this draft is Brendan Rice. We were just talking about him from USC, and he's a hell of a player. So think about the 20th. He's 21st ranked on their net on the wide receiver list. That's how deep wide receiver is, and they have him as a potential as a second or third rounder. I mean, if you want a wide receiver, you can get one in the second or third round, and it's the list of 20 players ahead of him. These guys are all going to be NFL stars. They really are. The game has changed so much. It's wide receiver centric, and I mean, we know that as Bengal fans. Boyd, Higgins, and Chase. Think about that, and I don't know, man. It's going to be a great draft. It really is, and I hope what Anthony says happens. I hope we get a defensive lineman, offensive lineman, don't care what order, wide receiver, and cornerback. If we do that, it's a good first 2 days, buddy.
Yeah, I agree. There is a running back I want to talk to you about, and it's Trey Benson. So if Trey Benson's there at pick 80 with the new kickoff rules, so as you can see, I'm starting to dial in. I'm starting to really fine tune what I've been naming out a lot of guys in previous podcasts and stuff, but who I'm really wanting is a guy kind of like a Johnny Newton or a Byron Murphy. Maybe, and this is not going to be a popular pick because everyone knows I like TJ Tampa. If he's there in the second, I'd be cool with that. I'd be cool with Zach Frazier as well. And I like Benson a lot in the third. If he's there in the third, I think that could really round off that room, and I think he could be a lot of fun. And then you follow that up with a guy like Javon Baker, or even we talked about Rice. So one of those dudes. I feel like there's a lot of potential without us having to move spots. There could be a lot of really quality players. And I think really the middle of this draft is where we're going to see a lot of Bengals needs be met with players that we need, like wide receiver. T. Higgins is leaving, so I mean he's here this year, but the odds of him getting a contract done is pretty slim. So you got that. Tyler Boyd does not sign back with us. He's not signed with anybody, so who knows what could happen there. But wide receivers becoming a sneaky need. Cornerback, with the departure of Cheeto, that's kind of becoming a sneaky need. Like you said before, we got 400 to 500 snaps. They're kind of unaccounted for right now. So
about Trey Benson, I follow Florida State football quite a bit because my wife and kids graduated from there. I'm a West Virginia fan, but I do follow Florida State quite a bit. Benson is a freak. He's like a 4.40, and he has some oomph to him. But what did Bengal Nation? We had that big debate. People that wanted to keep Mixon and people that wanted him gone. Well, the ones that wanted him gone, they said the Bengals need to be more explosive at running back. Well, you'd get that with Benson. You really would. And you mentioned something about the kickoff rules. You're right. This new kickoff rule, it's you're going to have more returns. You're going to need more people that are dynamic with the ball in their hand. And I'm not talking 150-pound, 170-pound wide receiver. I'm talking about a running back. So you might have to carry an extra running back or two just for that. If Benson, I know some people think you get a running back in the fourth and fifth, and you can. But if Benson is there in the third, he won't be there in the fourth or fifth. If you want a Benson, you have to get him early. And again, I won't lose any sleep if they draft Benson because he's going to be a good football player.
I agree. I agree. I did have a thought in Zach Frazier. Would he be, if he's there in the second round and you have, let's say we do get a what's that kid's name? Barton, Graham Barton. So we get him. Would you still, if he's there at 49, would you take your guy, or would you
No,
think that would be
that would hurt me a little bit 'cause I'm a Zach Frazier guy. I love him. But something about Barton, he's very versatile, but he started at left tackle, uh, Duke, and the NFL experts think he's going to be a guard or center. And if I already said this, I'm sorry. We talked so much. His relative athletic score was through the charts, Barton's. But it's not just athleticism. He has good tape, and I think he's going to be our center of the future, actually. So I think if the Bengals drafted Barton, I don't think Frazier would be an option. I don't.
no? I I have this weird vision, Mon, that if the Bengals could move back, they could pick up extra draft capital and get a Barton, and then get a Frazier. Then you get
Talk about fixing the offensive
Jackson.
line.
Yeah, your offensive line should be pretty dang solid. Your depth, which has killed us the past 2 years between the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game. So I feel like that's pretty well covered and it's fixed. Then you have, there's multiple guys in that third round, fourth round. So you have Sweat. Sweat's predicted to fall. Everyone loves Sweat. He's a kid. Kids make mistakes. Heck, I make mistakes all the time. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. But like so Sweat could be a guy that we thought was in the second round that could possibly be a late third, early, or even mid fourth when we're picking. And then you said Jackson, the defensive tackle, or more of a nose tackle earlier, and when Jake made his picks. So there's definitely guys that are going to be there in rounds 3 and 4 that could provide really good depth, defensive interior, offensive interior, but also there's guys like Javon Baker, Trey Benson, cornerbacks Cam Hart. Cam Hart I've been really high on.
Yes.
So I don't think I would complain, but you'd probably be cool with not taking if you did get Barton, not getting Frazier.
No,
Which you're the trench guy. 'Cause I figured with you being the trench guy, you'd be like more on board.
I think Frazier's a center, but I think Barton could be that guy or a guard. Hey, if they wanted to put Barton at guard and Frazier do it, I'm not saying the Bengals will do this, so everybody's watching, calm down. If they really wanted to fix the trenches, they could do it with the first 6 picks. They really could. They could go 3 offense and 3 defensive linemen, and we would be set. Guess what? The remaining picks, get some skill players. Guess what you do in 2025 draft? Draft skill players, because I think that would really revamp and reset the trenches. And guys, I know it's not sexy, but we have got a lot of openings there in the next couple of years. We just can't go into 2025 and say, "Hey, man, let's draft all trenches to replace these guys," or let's go sign. Let's get $100 million out of the salary cap to get guys that are retired. Replace Karras and everything. We have to start drafting them now, and I think they will. They're going to start the rebuild this year. Some of these guys might not play a lot in 2024, but they're going to play a lot over the next 6, 7, 8 years.
Okay, my final question for you, Mon.
Yes, sir.
We've been on 53 minutes. I'll let you go after this one. Is there anybody you think the Bengals could trade outside of T. Higgins to pull off a Billy Price kind of scenario? Or if you remember, we got the guy from Buffalo. I can't remember his name. He was
Corey
a
Glenn.
tackle from Buffalo. Yep. So Cordy Glenn. We back Cordy Glenn. Is there any scenario where we could do something along those lines? I know Dax Hill's kind of been in talks, but would you be? I mean, that's a first round pick that's only been a couple years. Is there anybody that maybe fits that mold that you can see the Bengals kind of a Jackson Carman, maybe, a new scenery?
I mean, the Billy Price situation, it was, they were going to cut him. And so they found somebody that was lacking on the offensive line, the Giants, and they got BJ Hill. Jackson Carman was a second round pick. Maybe there's an offensive line coach out there that scouted him before the Bengals picked him. Maybe they'll say, hey, man, you know what? We'll give you a sixth round pick. I tell you what, let's swap fourth rounders. You can move up 10 spots. We'll take your fourth rounder. Maybe they could do something like that. I don't know. Listen, there might be a player they cut in August because they had a great draft, player, an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. Maybe, and this may piss off people on Bengal Twitter. Let's say a BJ Hill, like, hey, we drafted a couple defensive tackles. We don't need you anymore. Let's save $10 million. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you never know.
You'd really piss some people off with Sam Hubbard.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to say that yet because I know you can't say anything bad about Sam Hubbard or Skyline Chili. Okay, you can't do that in Cincinnati. No, because nobody will ever watch a Bengals Pulse or the Bengals Army. You can't do that.
Yeah, we'd be cut.
Exactly. No, man, but it's going to be interesting. Are you going to be going live on draft night? What are you going to do?
No, I'll probably be driving to work.
You're working.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I'll be driving into work. Hopefully, the way it looks is I'll be able to get into work and be able to tune in. Hopefully, when I get there. So hopefully I can get in, get checked in, get everything figured out, and kind of be tuned in while that's going on. Or if they pick a little earlier, then I'll probably be able to listen to it on the way. But Maan, real quick,
yes, sir.
Your pick, number 18. Let's hear it.
Okay, like my final mock, I had them trading back and taking Graham Barton, picking up another pick in the top 100, getting a pick from the Packers, pick 58. So it gave us 5 picks in the top 100. Graham Barton, to me, I don't know, Dusty. I don't know why, man. I'm just feeling it. I really think he's going to wind up being a Cincinnati Bengal. I really do. And
it's that 3-year captain in him.
What's that?
That 3-year captain. He's been a captain.
Yeah.
He plays all these positions. He can back up everybody, every position on that offensive line, man.
This guy is, I said something about being bust proof. Of course, nobody is. You could draft anybody that could be a bust, but I think he's a safe pick. And Graham Barton, but I'll give you a second guy. Graham Barton's 1A, but 1B, I like Latham. I like JC. I think Dave Lapham, you know him, his history. On Bengal Jim the other day and on Dan Hord's show, you could see the excitement in his voice when he said JC Latham. I think that's who he wants, and I think that's who the Bengals want, but they just don't expect that to happen. So,
see,
go ahead.
I like your first selection. I like Graham because the Bengals need versatility on that offensive line, and they need a guy that's, can play all these spots, but a lot of the problem is you got guys that are tailored as a guard, he's a left tackle and he's played left tackle. Can he go to the right side? Can he play guard? Graham Barton has done it all. I like Barton. JC Latham, when I was talking to Parker Blake, and one of his big things was he would reach for players and there was holding. He'd have a lot of holding calls. If that's something that can be coachable and fixed, then Latham does have a good profile, and he'd be a guy. It's so hard to tell. It's fun to mock these players and stuff. And I know Dave Lapham is kind of the guru with who he chooses, and it kind of seems like it falls in line and stuff. But man, I don't know if I would love that. I would like Latham over Mims, but I wouldn't want. I would like Graham over Mims, to be honest. Mims is such a question mark to me.
James Rapine picked him. He picked Mims in the mock draft with Paul Daner, which shocked me a little bit. Yeah, the Graham Barton thing, though. I know I sound like a broken record. I've talked about him so much. You think about it, he would be our swing offensive lineman at every spot. He could play tackle in a pinch. He could play every guard spot. He could play center. Think about that. You have one guy on, he'd be active on game day. Anybody gets nicked up, he could come right in and play. You mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it a while back too. Our offensive linemen, all 5 starters, they started every game last year. I want that to happen again. But you know what? Injuries do happen, and we got to have better depth. And I think Graham Barton would be that depth this year, but guess what? He'd be a starter the next year. And Zach Zenter in the third or fourth round, the guard
Mhm.
from Michigan, if they could steal him, because it'd be a redshirt year. He really broke his leg. It looks rough. But I think he's going to be a future star in the NFL also.
Yeah, we talked about him. We did a mock draft with Tyler Bowles and his crew.
Right?
And Zenter was a guy we took in the 5th round. In he was an All-American, I believe. That's what I think Tony was saying. He was an All-American, or he's on pace to be an All-American. But I do remember when he got injured, the way his team kind of went around him, the way they acted. You could tell that was a captain. That was a guy that was highly
Yes.
regarded on that team. And that, to me, and this is what I said on that previous show, was that screams Zach Taylor to me.
Yeah.
A guy that the team is behind, and when he goes down, it's just like it takes the air out of the stadium. It's like oh
Yeah.
my, like DJ Reader, when DJ got hurt, it was kind of like, oh boy, like that. Our run defense was pretty bad. Like what's about to happen now? So I'm on board with his enter. I do. I don't know. 3rd round, that's a little rich for me. But because you maybe get a guy like Mahogany. I like Mahogany. But yeah, maybe
Coleman from
4th, 5th round.
TCU. Coleman from TCU is going to be a good player too.
Coleman. Yeah,
Yeah.
but was he a tackle?
He
Did he
was a
play
tackle.
tackle?
He played tackle, but I think he could play. I think they have him as his best spot's going to be guard. Justin on the
Mhm.
Bengals Pulse last night mocked him later. I think that was a great pick too. Man, there are a lot of good players, and I mean Coleman could develop into a really good one. But you hit it right on the head, man. With Zenter, I've seen him in the third, fourth, and fifth. I mean, if the Bengals can draft and stash like the NBA, hey, we'll get you in
Yeah.
2025, you'll be a starter. And I don't know, man. I'm just so excited just talking about it right now. I can't freaking wait for the draft. I can't.
It blows my mind that it's literally 2 days away. It just doesn't seem real. There's so many guys. I mean, we've covered a lot just between me and you previously talking and different things. We've covered a lot of players. There's a lot of good players and a lot of good value that I really hope we can hit. K Breezy says Graham Barton scored a 9.99 RAS.
I saw
That he ranks
That's sick.
3 out of 1,532 offensive guards from 1987 to 2024. He copied that from X.
Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
saw that. I saw that. His RAS score is unbelievable, but remember his tape is phenomenal. Cedric O'Boy, he had unbelievable athleticism. He had horrible tape. All right, that's not the case with this guy. It's not the case with Barton. He's athletic, good tape. You know what? It's going to take him a little bit maybe to adjust to the NFL. Man, this guy's going to be an 10-year starter. He's going to be a stud. The guys on Cincinnati, Zim gives me a hard time over it. I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling Graham Barton. I really am. And if he goes to the Steelers or the Ravens, I'm going to need some help. I'm going to need some medicine, man. I really am.
No, I feel you, man, because I can see the vision with him. I really can. The more, like I said, just kind of trickling down and dialing into like what I think the Bengals would do, what I would like the Bengals to do, and people that make sense. I think Graham Barton is a guy that really makes sense for them. I think he covers a lot of spots, a lot of holes, and I think if you get him, he's a dude that could open up the rest of the draft completely. Because I know you really like the West Virginia kid, Frazier, and I like Frazier a lot too. And if he's there in the second, I've said it over and over, I have no problem with taking him in the second. But if you take this guy, you might not have to. You might get a guy like a TJ Tampa at cornerback. You might get a Fisk, a Braden Fisk. You might get.
Forgot about him.
Yeah. I mean, Fisk. You got Rook Row. You got there's players there. Like I don't know. I don't even know how to say the name, but the Clemson.
I think you said it right, but every time I hear that, I'm like, man, somebody. That's fake. That can't be his real name. I'm waiting for like somebody. What's going on here? He's gonna be a hell of a football player. I tell you, if you're looking for a center, Borderlini is going to be a good player also. He
Well,
is. And,
and he comes from a school that produces offensive linemen.
yes,
You know, Wisconsin produces offensive linemen and running backs. So, you know, he could be a guy, and Braylon Allen, he might be the other dude. You might get that
yeah,
middle,
you're right.
that middle backfield going right through. But all
Yeah.
right, Mon, I'm not going to
All
hold
right.
you any much longer. I said probably 10 minutes ago we were just
No,
going to
you're
cut
good.
out.
Listen, man, I know draft nights you're gonna be on the road, but I'm gonna name drop you. We're going live. I'm gonna give you a shout out. And we'll text. If the Bengals shock the world and draft somebody we weren't even talking about, I might need some counseling. So I'm gonna be texting you. You need to talk me off the ledge, okay? So
I'll help you out
we'll
because
see how it
I'll
goes.
need the same counseling. And I don't know if you've seen it the other day, but my buddy Jenkins, he was on here and he was
Right.
like, we were talking, and I think it was Parker Blake, and I was like, dude, I can talk Bengals all night. And he was watching the show. He's like, I can clarify. Yeah, Dusty will talk. He'll talk Bengals football all night long, even when nobody's really listening to me. I'll just sit there and ramble, buddy. So I'll need the counseling just
Okay.
the same.
We have to get you on after their get you on the Bengals pulse, and we can keep
I
on
love
rambling.
it.
But man, thank you again for having me on. I appreciate you, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mon. So
Take
everybody, make sure you check out Bengals Pulse, Cincinnati. Those guys do a lot of great things, man. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Mon, for joining us. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us. I think we're maybe 20 followers away or 20 subscribers away from 100. So go ahead and
care.
subscribe to us and watch further shows. Thank you.